Marina Ortega hovered 15 meters below the undulating silver skin of the Gulf, her fingertips grazing the fractured edge of what had once been living coral. Sunlight sliced through the blue, revealing white skeletons strewn across the seabed like the ruins of a fallen city. She checked the pressure gauge on her tank, then the slate strapped to her forearm. The numbers were cruel. Water temperature 2 degrees higher than the seasonal norm, polyps mortality above 80%. Years of calculations, prototypes, and grant proposals echoed in her mind, compressed into a single aching word: failure. She drifted closer to the rubble, where one of her experimental reef modules lay on its side, half buried in sand. The polymer lattice had been meant to lure free-swimming coral larvae and shelter juvenile fish, but last week's hurricane had treated it like a toy, flipping it over despite the anchoring pins she had sworn were hurricane-proof. A flicker of movement tugged at the edge of her vision. Marina turned, expecting a grouper, or maybe a curious sea turtle. Instead, she found a pair of calm, unblinking eyes that were unmistakably human, and yet not. The irises shimmered turquoise, the pupils vertical slits. The face around them was angular, sea pale, framed by strands of midnight hair that drifted like kelp. Below the sternum, skin transitioned into scales of iridescent slate, then into the sleek propulsion of a tail. The merperson raised a webbed hand in the universal sign of peace. 1,000 childhood stories beat urgently in Marina's chest, but her training held: slow breaths, conserve oxygen, analyze. The mirror's lips moved, bubbles spiraled upward, but Marina heard nothing through her regulator. He gestured toward her slate, then tapped his own collarbone. There, implanted just below the skin, gleamed a small, opalescent shell. He pressed it, and a metallic hum vibrated through the water. "Surface," the voice said, clear, resonant, projected not through air, but through the water itself. "We should talk. Your tank is almost empty." Shock threatened to swallow her rational mind, but the engineer in Marina recognized the data. Her gauge indeed hovered near reserve. She nodded once and kicked toward the dive boat. On deck, peeling off her wetsuit, she told herself she might have hallucinated. Nitrogen narcosis, anything. But then a sleek head broke the surface beside the ladder. The mere rested forearms on the transom, water streaming down his scales in orderly rivulets. "I'm Kai," he said. The voice emerged from the shell at his throat, tinny as an old radio. "Ambassador of the Pelagic Conclave. You are destroying our home." Marina, still half tangled in neoprene, opened her mouth to protest. "If you noticed, your home is already destroyed, and I'm trying to fix it." "For whom?" Kai asked. "The coral hovers between life and death. You replace it with plastic skeletons. The younglings call them ghost reefs. They're biodegradable polymers, formulated to dissolve once natural coral regains dominance," she replied, slipping into the automatic cadence of lectures delivered to skeptical committees. "We inject micronutrients, create turbulence pockets for gamete capture." "Words, engineer," he cut in. Below, the fish whisper of warm water and empty nurseries. They whisper your name because it's etched on every fallen frame. Marina clenched her jaw. The seawall of her composure threatened to crack. Behind it, salt water could pour out as tears or rage. "If you've come to condemn me, get in line behind the oil lobby, the Coastal Hotel Syndicate, and my own father." Kai's eyes narrowed. "I came to partner. The conclave voted 3 tides ago. We need surface allies, but alliance means honesty." He lifted from the water slightly, balancing with a powerful sweep of his tail. "Your designs fail because you ignore the language of currents. You anchor them like bricks, rigid. We can teach you how the reef breathes. Marina looked at the broken modules, the ghost reefs, like mistakes strobing under sunlight. She also saw the dwindling numbers on her funding ledger. One successful prototype by year's end, or the grants evaporated. Trial data was killing her. Fine, she said. Teach me, but don't expect me to believe myths. Data or nothing. Kai's answering smile was strange. No canines, but serrated incisors. Data, he echoed, and flicked a little water toward her. In what she'd later learn was a gesture of camaraderie. 2 nights later, Marina anchored her skiff over an uncharted seamount Kai had called the Heartstone. She slipped overboard with a notebook in a waterproof case and a headlamp set to red to preserve nocturnal vision. Kai waited below, surrounded by a halo of bioluminescent plankton. With a beckoning gesture, he guided her along an invisible corridor between craggy ridges. Soon they reached an amphitheater of living coral so vibrant it seemed allergic to entropy itself. Pillars of staghorn, cushions of brain coral, fans trembling like lace in the current, fish ladled color into every crevice, parrotfish abrading rock with beak-tough mouths, damselfish patrolling gardens of algae. Marina's first instinct was ecstasy. Her second, bewilderment. The reef was untouched by warming, bleaching, acidification. Impossible. She signaled a question. Kai led her to a fissure in the seamount where cool water exhaled from the Earth's mantle. Upwellings of mineral-rich, colder water sluiced over the coral colonies, mitigating heat stress, altering pH levels. The Heartstone keeps us alive, Kai narrated via shell, but its gift is local. Beyond, the ocean sickens. We cannot abandon our neighbors. His tail flicked toward a stand of branching coral. We seed fragments from here onto ghost reefs, but surface storms scatter them. Your designs must flex, not fight. Marina examined the coral's base and realized the colony had grown around swaying lines of fibrous kelp tethered to rocks. The coral used the kelp as scaffolding, fusing organic motion and mineral rigidity. Her brain raced. Dynamic anchorage, she muttered. Tension systems instead of fixed rebar. Kai nodded. Like muscles on bone. All night they drafted plans on her waterproof pages. Suspended modules, hinged joints, biomimetic cilia that would sway with waves to prevent shear stress. Marina recorded temperature, salinity, current velocity. She drilled him with questions. Reproduction cycles, predator-prey loops, merfolk history. He demanded reciprocity. How many plastics enter the sea each dawn? Why do surface dwellers chase short-term profit at the expense of future breath? By sunrise, Marina's tank was spent, but her notebook overflowed. Over the next month, the dock beneath Marina's workshop became a carnival of impossible collaboration. Kai surfaced daily with bundles of sea silk spun from pelagic worms, resinous secretions harvested from ancient coral, and once a blood-red pearl that, he claimed, could neutralize toxins when ground into powder. Marina ferried down spools of biodegradable filament, 3D printers housed in pressure-resistant pods, and solar-powered sensors the size of sand dollars. They argued fiercely, Kai accusing her algorithms of being too Euclidean, and Marina retorting that spiral vortices obey fluid dynamics, not poetry. Yet after each battle, they emerged with prototypes that surpassed either alone. Other merfolk appeared. Shea the juvenile scout, her tail the shade of twilight. Elder Rune, whose scales bore barnacle mosaics. They observed Marina with the wary courtesy of wild creatures approaching a campfire. When she offered to let Shea print her own algae harvester design, the young mare squealed water through her gills and clapped like a dolphin. The townspeople, though, noticed waves of secrecy rolling from Marina's pier. The rumor mill churned. She was harboring smugglers, or testing weapons for the Navy, or, most outrageous, dating a pirate. The truth breached only once, when Kai leapt onto the dock in full view of two teenage paddleboarders. Their cell phone footage went viral by noon. Headlines screamed, "Mermaid Man or Marine Hoax!" Reporters besieged Marina's inbox. Funding organizations oscillated between fascination and panic. The governor called, requesting an exclusive licensing deal for Merfolk. Marina shielded Kai from the maelstrom, insisting he stays submerged until she secured legal protection. "Your surface world is noisy," he observed during a twilight meeting beneath the hull. "But noise can be exploited. Announce our prototype deployment. Let them witness change, not myth. Or they'll come hunting for you," she argued. "Ambassadors face risk," he replied. "If hearts do not change, reefs will not either." She said nothing, but her hand drifted toward his, fingers brushing the fine webs until their palms met across the water's gradient. Deployment day dawned with copper clouds and anxious gulls. The mayor's yacht, stuffed with local dignitaries and live-stream drones, bobbed near the damaged reef tract. Marina stood at the bow of her skiff, helmet mic broadcasting engineering jargon to the crowd. Kai hovered just beneath the surface, invisible unless one peered through polarized lenses. The prototype, christened the Breathing Reef, resembled a giant, translucent dandelion head. Hundreds of tapered arms radiated from a central hub filled with ballast sand. At rest, the structure floated several meters above the seabed, tethered by elastic cords to limestone anchors grown from bacterial accretion. The arms flexed with swell, creating micro-eddies conducive to larval settlement. Marina signaled, and a crane released the Breathing Reef. It splashed, bobbed, and began its slow descent. Cameras fed live images to surface screens. At 5 meters depth, a rogue gust twisted the crane line. The hub jerked, one arm snagging the cable. Metal screeched, anchors misaligned. Marina's heart imploded. She dove off the skiff. No tank, just mast and fins, kicking furiously toward the entangled mess. But Kai was faster. He zipped upward, pulled a bone-handled blade from his belt, and sliced the snagged arm free. The structure wobbled, regained symmetry, and continued to sink. Drones captured everything, the Merfolk ambassador saving the human invention. Cheers erupted topside. Politicians framed it as interspecies cooperation. Environmental groups tripled their donations overnight. Kids painted signs, "Thank you, fish people." But not everyone applauded. 2 weeks later, Marina scrolled through her messages and froze at a threat written in block capitals. "Stay out of God's realm. No freak fish can fix what man has dominion over." She traced the sender to a coalition of commercial trawlers, furious about new marine protected zones the governor had enacted after the Breathing Reef's debut. Marina's hands shook, half fear, half fury. She'd grown up on stories of fishermen respecting the sea. Now, desperation twisted that respect into hostility. That night, Kai guided her to the Heartstone to calm her nerves. They floated above the luminous coral, bodies aligned like parentheses around shared silence. "I knew surface fear," he murmured, "but I did not expect hate so sharp." "Hate is just fear with toxins added," Marina replied, echoing her therapist's mantra. Kai's tail brushed her leg, gentle as tide. "You humans speak of mending hearts." "How?" "Listening," she said, then added grimly, "though sometimes even that fails." Kai studied her face as if mapping currents. "Would you listen to my heart?" Marina exhaled, bubbles ascending like lanterns. With careful fingers, she touched the shell at his throat. He pressed her palm flat against his chest. Through scale and sinew, She felt a pulse, fluid and strong. He drew her closer, gills fluttering against her neck. Spliced by water and wonder, they hovered between two realms until breath, or lack of it, forced her to the surface. She lay on the skiff deck staring at stars, lungs burning with more than oxygen debt, her heart echoing Kai's rhythm as though the sea had grafted part of itself inside her. The first incursion came at midnight. 3 fishing boats running dark, engines throttled low. They cut anchor lines holding the breathing reef, then dragged the structure toward open water. Sonar alarms tripped. Marina jolted awake, cursing the lag in Coast Guard response times. She and Kai gave chase, she on a Zodiac, he beneath. When he surfaced near the thieves' stern, floodlights snapped on, dazzling him. A voice barked, "Back, monster!" A shotgun leveled. The shell ripped water inches from Kai's head. Marina screamed hoarse warnings. She flung the Zodiac between Kai and the boats, engine roaring. Someone fired again. Pellets peppered her inflatable tube. Air hissed. Sirens wailed in the distance as Coast Guard cutters finally arrived. The poachers fled, but not before they'd severed 2 more tethers. The breathing reef drifted aimlessly, one arm torn like a broken wishbone. At dawn, Marina knelt on the deck, examining the damage. Anger burnt acid in her throat. Kai surfaced silently. Blood trickled from a shallow cut along his brow. "I'm taking this to court," Marina vowed. "Maybe the United Nations. Crimes against protected species. Against you." Kai touched the wound, unbothered. "Battle marks fade. Reefs cannot wait for courts. So what? We let vandals win? Adapt," he said simply, "as coral does after a storm. We rebuild stronger, and we invite them to help." "Invite them?" She almost laughed. "Those men would rather string you up." "Some will always choose nets," he conceded, "but others mend them. Show them the Heartstone's secret. Share spat from the living reef. Let them farm coral fragments on their boats. Sell them legally to aquarists instead of trawling dead zones." Marina stared. "You'd give them livelihood? Restore habitats and hearts," he reminded her. 2 months unfolded like a tide chart of hope and relapse. Marina and Kai held workshops for fishermen in a refurbished cannery. Elder Run demonstrated coral microfragmentation, breaking coral into fingernail-sized bits that regrew 25 times faster when attached to ceramic plugs. Skeptics muttered about sea devils, but younger fishers saw potential profits and signed up. Meanwhile, Marina's lab upgraded the breathing reef with self-healing joints infused with calcium carbonate, secreted by Merfolk cultivated algae. They installed acoustic deterrents to ward off illegal dragnets. The project earned international awards, but more importantly, juvenile parrotfish counts tripled within the prototype's shadow. Snorkelers reported rainbow clouds of wrasse darting among coral nubs sprouting on the lattice. One afternoon, a girl from the fishing fleet approached Marina carrying a jar of ivory pellets. "Coral babies," she whispered, cheeks flushed. "We'd like to plant them near the ghost reefs." Marina knelt. "They're not ghosts anymore," she said, heart swelling. "They're breathing." The day the governor arrived for the grand expansion ceremony, the sea brewed a storm that negated speeches in favor of demonstration. Squalls battered the staging barge, cables whipped, guests shrieked. Yet under the waves, the new breathing reefs swayed like giant anemones, absorbing energy, flexing instead of fracturing. Cameras captured how fish sought refuge within the arms, how coral plugs stayed snug inside dynamic sockets. Marina dove to inspect. Rain hammered the surface, turning it into a drum. Lightning flashed, but far enough. Kai met her at 15 meters, eyes gleaming. "Proof," he said. "Even the sky honors us with challenge." She laughed bubbles. Think the governor appreciates your poetic data? He will when voters do, Kai answered. They linked hands, floating amid the storm symphony, twin architects of something vaster than either realm. Months slid into a year. The Ghost Reef track transformed into a kaleidoscope, visible even from drone footage. Fishermen reported fuller nets outside protected zones, benefiting from spillover effect. Schools adopted the Breathing Reef curriculum. Children built mini models from recycled plastic and tossed them into wading pools stocked with tadpoles. Marina's funding secured itself indefinitely, but she found she measured success not in balance sheets, but in the bloom of soft coral polyps, in the squeals of tourists glimpsing Kai's silhouette riding bow waves. Public opinion shifted from curiosity to stewardship. Anti-Merfolk sentiment dwindled, replaced by bumper stickers. My ambassador has a tail. One crisp dawn, Marina stood at the pier where it had begun, clasping a permit stamped Unified Coastal Habitat Authority. International Collaboration Zone. Bureaucracy had finally caught up. Merfolk were legally recognized stakeholders in marine policy. Kai surfaced, droplets shivering down his shoulders. Paper shields, he teased, tapping the permit. Armor buys time, she retorted. He circled her ankles with his tail, gentle. And what of hearts, engineer? Marina knelt, lowering her face to his, until their breaths mingled in the chilly air. Hearts need anchorage that flexes, she whispered. Dynamic tension systems. Muscles on bone, he agreed, laughter rippling his gills. Will yours tether to mine? Instead of answering, she kissed him. Salt tasted of beginnings, not endings. Gulls wheeled overhead, crying witness as an engineer and a Merfolk ambassador sealed partnership with lips and tides alike. Beneath them, new reefs breathed, a lattice of hope flexing with every wave. The ocean was not restored, not yet, but its heartbeat pulsed stronger, echoed by two matching rhythms, one human, one mer, both determined that neither realm would ever drown alone.